Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game Esoterica, and I got some fun and exciting news for you guys today because MAME 2.75 is out as of yesterday afternoon Chicago time, and just like last month, the new version of MAME is bringing some absolute bangers in both the improvements as well as new working games category. And right off the top, we're going to be checking out Primal Rage II here, and if you're not aware, Primal Rage II was an unfinished arcade game where the actual betas did get out into the world a while ago. Well, there has been a custom version of MAME that ran this game with a little bit of jank. Now it's going to run perfectly fine in mainline MAME 0.275, and that's absolutely spectacular because one, it is definitely a game worth checking out, and two, it really does go to the overall ethos of MAME, preserving absolutely everything out there. Even if a game isn't finished, people want to play it, and now you can just pop directly into mainline MAME and go ahead and play Primal Rage 2 to your heart's content. And honestly, even though it might not be technically as good as the first game and it isn't unfinished, there's a ton of fun to be had here, and it is so much fun to see this finally working in MAME. It's one of those things, like I said, there was a special version, MAME for Rage, and it did work relatively well, but it had some freezing issues and is definitely old at this point in time. So getting this folded into the mainline MAME definitely makes it a lot easier for fans to go ahead and play Primal Rage 2, and it is a very interesting game. Kind of strange that they decided to go to human characters versus monsters by the default and then move over to them, but from the animations to all of the backgrounds, everything here looks like playing Primal Rage 2 as far as I can tell. But of course, it's not like everyone out there has an arcade board, but it is a ton of fun. You can pop into a two-player match, play it totally fine. It is nice that you can now just sit down in MAME, type in Primal Rage 2, hit enter, and play the game like you would if you were sitting in front of real arcade hardware. And that really is what I love about MAME. Just like last month, getting new working games, especially rare games like Primal Rage 2, makes this such a fun time. Leave me a comment down below and you tell me what's your favorite game to play in MAME as far as fighting games are concerned. There's so many options. I'm sure a lot of you are going to be stoked to play Primal Rage 2 as of today, and that's the great thing about MAME. I love the monthly updates. You get a new batch of working games, you get a ton of fixes, almost too much to talk about in one video, so I will leave a link in the description below to the MAME patch notes for 0.275 because I only kind of cover the top level stuff. Speaking of top level items, Strider 2 is now completely freeze-free in MAME, and I know this got ported over to the PlayStation home console, but the arcade board this ran on was more powerful than the PlayStation console in and of itself, so the best version of the game to play, in my opinion, is going to be the arcade original. And because most of you don't go out there and collect arcade boards like I do, MAME is going to be the de facto way that you're going to play stuff like this. And while Strider 2 would launch into the game and you could get some gameplay in, there were freezing issues, and that would really make it hard to just sit down and enjoy the title, and that really is the goal of MAME. Just sit down, hit play, throw some coins in, and then just have a good time. And obviously, if you can't trust that you can get to the start and finish of the game without freezing, it really kind of interrupts that overall flow. So now having Strider 2 be completely freeze-free just makes it that much better, and if you've never played Strider 2 before, I can't stress enough just how incredible of a game this is. It looks absolutely outstanding with the mix of polygons as well as the 2D sprites. The soundtrack is epic, the gameplay is the best that it's ever been. It really is a special game, and on the arcade version it just performs better, and that is always a fun time. But of course, if it was freezing halfway through your gameplay session and you had to start over from scratch, that would definitely end up bumming people out. The best way to play before MAME 0.275 was just to use save states all the time and hope that if you did see a crash, you could just load that save state and kind of try to bypass it, because it did seem a little bit random, at least when I experienced it. But now today you can just sit down, throw some coins in, and play Strider 2 all the way to the end credits with no issues whatsoever. And again, I just love how spectacular this game looks. All of these polygonal buildings going by, these polygonal cars that we're jumping on, with all of the sprites we're fighting. It is just such a perfect marriage of 2D and 3D all at once. It is one of those games, the first time I saw it, I fell in love with it, and every single time I play it now, it 100% hits the same way that it did when I first experienced it. So if for some strange reason you've never played Strider 2 before, go ahead and download MAME 0.275, grab the ROMs, and then just go ahead and enjoy it like you were playing the real arcade board, because it's one of those things. It is a 10 out of 10 game, and I absolutely love it. Now moving over to games that worked before but have had graphical improvements, there's been a lot of fixes on Konami boards. If you know me in the channel, you know I love Konami, and one of my favorite games for them is Violent Storm. There's a ton of graphical improvements in the blending and how the sprites work, and this game just has a spectacular soundtrack, so go ahead and listen for 35 seconds and look at just how good the game looks, and I'll be right back. Just absolutely one of my favorite soundtracks of all time for any arcade game, and I do think it might be Konami's best soundtrack that they ever put to any game, 2D or 3D. And honestly, even though this game was playable before, getting the graphical fixes in gets it that much closer to the actual real arcade board, because that is the thing. If you want to pick up a Violent Storm arcade board, you're going to have to bring your wallet. It's not the most expensive thing out there. Last time I saw one sell was like $700, but that is $700 for one game versus MAME being able to play it without having to put that massive investment in. And it's not like this is something you're going to see in arcades anytime soon unless you go to a very large arcade, something like Galloping Ghost. Not even sure if they have one on the floor, if I'm being entirely honest. But that is what, again, I love about MAME is there's just so many people out there trying to improve these small edge cases. They notice something that isn't correct and they go in and they remedy it. So we have all of these games into the future. We can just sit around and enjoy them exactly the way the developers intended. And big thanks to the moderator of my Discord, the Cool Pup. He provided footage of Primal Rage as well as Strider 2 for me, and then it just kind of follows along with the patch notes with me indicating things that have improved. And if you ever want to help with this or just chat MAME, there is a Discord link in the description below. We talk all about arcade improvements over there, so if you want to do that, you know how to do it now. Keeping with the Konami theme, Metamorphic Force has also seen graphical improvements all basically off this board set, because Konami would release a piece of hardware in arcades and they'd put somewhere between 1 to 12 games on it. Honestly, they did some really strange things with hardware. They'd create entirely new platforms and either release one game and move on, or they'd have a host of games. So the Metamorphic Force series of boards has a ton of absolute Konami bangers on it. Obviously Violent Storm and now Metamorphic Force in and of itself. And it is another really fun beat 'em up. Kind of has some shades of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles mixed together with something like Cowboys of Moo Mesa and even a couple other games in there as well. It is just one of those titles that's strange, it's quirky, it has a lot of fun gameplay mechanics. I know it's one that not everybody has played, so leave me a comment down below and let me know if you played Metamorphic Force before. It feels probably closest to Bucky O'Hare, but with a completely different theming, and being compared to that game from Konami definitely is not a bad thing. And if you want to compare it to something that wasn't Konami, definitely has some Altered Beast vibes as well as far as the beat 'em up action is concerned, and the fact that obviously you can transform into an animal. That is the metamorphic part of Metamorphic Force, and it is just nice to have improvements to these games, because again, this is another very expensive PCB, and honestly the way I would recommend 99 out of 100 people play it is going to be something like MAME, because even I, an arcade collector, do not have all the money in the world, nor do I have all the storage space in the world. These boards are big, and picking up an $800 or $1,000 PCB to play one game that works like 99% as good as real hardware in MAME isn't even something I do. I really do collect the stuff that doesn't emulate the 3D stuff from the 90s that just is one of those realities where if you don't have the real arcade board, you're not going to be able to play the game. So definitely, if you've never played Metamorphic Force out before, give it a shot. It is an absolute ton of fun. It's Konami at their best, but it isn't as popular as some of their other games because it doesn't really have a franchise behind it. Even though something like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Turtles in Time is synonymous with excellence when it comes to Konami beat 'em up, being a TMNT game definitely helps it gain more prominence and notoriety just because it does have that license behind it. But speaking of animals that beat the ever-loving hell out of other animals, Bloody Roar 2 is now working again in MAME, and that is another new working game because last time I tried it, it was not going well. It's got a great soundtrack as well. Listen, and I'll be right back. Such great music, the game looks great in MAME, and I'm seeing a very fun trend this month, even if it is completely inadvertent, and that is animals beating the ever-loving hell out of other animals. We have Primal Rage 2, we have Bloody Roar 2, we have Metamorphic Force. This seems like one of those things. Apparently animals were the name of the game in MAME come February, and it's just always fun to kind of follow along with those patterns. Bloody Roar 2 definitely is a great game. I'd say it's a B+ tier game as far as 3D fighting games are concerned compared to some of the contemporaries, but there is a lot of love out there for this franchise, and and obviously having it working in MAME is going to be a good time. Definitely isn't the most expensive arcade board out there, so if you're a huge Bloody Roar 2 fan, picking up an arcade board for it wouldn't really break the bank. But again, I feel like most people that watch my channel really aren't arcade board collectors. But leave me a comment down below and tell me, if you do own arcade boards, how many do you own? Because I really would be curious. I feel like the arcade collector scene might be getting a little bit smaller because emulation really is just getting that much better. But popping back over to Konami for one more improved game, this is Gaiapolis. It is basically a tate or vertical beat 'em up game with a ton of light RPG elements in it, and this game is long. It's over an hour to play it from start to finish. I always felt like it was something destined for a PlayStation 1 or Sega Saturn port, but it is an arcade exclusive, and I love the work here, how these sprites coming over the top blend and basically change the background art almost like they're transparent. It is such a unique effect, and this game is just, again, an absolute hidden gem. I never hear anybody mention it, but it is so much fun. You have multiple characters, you have 2 players obviously, you have a lot of upgrades and different magical weapons and even animal buddies you can get to bring along for the fight. It's one of those titles, if you've never heard of it before, if there's one game from this video on MAME.275 that you decide to play, make it this one. It is just one of my favorite Konami hidden gems. It has so much fun, so much flair, such great graphics, and now those graphics are going to be even better in the most recent version of MAME, and this is definitely an arcade PCB that they are not giving away. This is a great game night game as well. Just grab a second controller and a friend, and for like the next hour and 10, hour and 15 minutes, you're going to have a spectacular time. Now, it isn't going to be perfection on the graphics front. There's still a couple items missing from the map screen, but that's one of those things they've been missing for like 10 years now, but hopefully in a new version of MAME, I'll be able to tell you one day that that's completely fixed up. But as far as the gameplay is concerned and everything else, it just 100% works exactly like it should. You can sit down, you can have fun, you can do whatever you want, and that is the great thing. Again, the preservation just keeps the dream alive, and you'll see here the story is relatively good as well, but the soundtrack's a 10 out of 10. Listen, and I'll be right back with one more game. Just a straight up awesome soundtrack. And keeping with the music theme, this is Dance Maniax, and this is another game that's going to be working in MAME.275, and this was sent to me by the moderator of my Discord, the Cool Pup, because he is 100% into the rhythm genre when it comes to arcade gaming, and I will readily admit it is not a genre that I participate in any way, shape, or form. I have absolutely zero rhythm in real life. I am one of the clumsiest, most untimed persons you will ever meet. The only thing that I am good at when it comes to physicality is skiing. If you want to see a double backflip on a good day, I'll throw you one and stick the landing absolutely perfectly, but the 50-foot walk from the car to the ski lodge, I might fall over twice. It has been a thing in my entire life. My rhythm is garbage. I cannot dance, and rhythm games, I would have lost that round like 15 seconds in because my brain just does not work that way. But for the people that love these type of games, they absolutely love them. It is a massive genre, and I'm happy when you're happy to tell you that new games work, because again, I'm sure some people have been waiting to play something like this in MAME, and now you can do it. It's one of those things. It is a massive genre, just not one for me, because I'm absolutely dumpster fire level garbage at rhythm games. I always will be, I always have been, but if you're happy about this, I am happy for you. But I definitely say the big news this month is getting Primal Rage II 100% playable in MAME. It is amazing that this game exists in the first place because it never got finished, so it is so great that the prototype was made available so people could enjoy it, and for being a prototype, it does feel like a 90 to 95% finished game as is. And that is the spectacular part of MAME, being able to play these games. You get to experience stuff that you'd never be able to experience otherwise. And MAME.275, as far as MAME updates are concerned, absolutely an awesome month, and I'll definitely deliver you some more news in March when we see what's working. And if you want to see any other games tested, leave me a comment down below and tell me what your favorite game of the video was. But we're done. Go play some MAME, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.